Hello there, AP World History students. My name is Luis Silva, and today we're looking at AP World History, Muslim Civilization's Golden Age. Please remember to subscribe to this channel. Remember to like this video, and also remember to share this video so that we can help out other students get ready to pass their AP World History exam. What will we learn today? Today we are going to identify the Muslim trade routes to India, China, Europe, and Africa, and we are going to assess the economic impact of this trade. Let's look at some of the Islamic achievements. Muslims during the Islamic Empire developed innovations that are still used today because the Islamic world was rich, diverse, and also creative. The Greeks, the Chinese, the Hindus, the Arabs, the Persians, the Turks, and all others, and many others actually, contributed to this lasting Islamic achievements. Muslims helped spread ideas as well as goods along the trade routes that connected Asia, Europe, and Africa. Remember, we've been talking about cultural diffusion, and obviously trade brought many ideas together from different parts of the world. Scholars read about and also preserved Greek and also Roman ideas. So these are some of the lasting achievements of the Islamic world. Please keep this in mind so that you can be ready to take your AP World History exam. Let's move on. The Islamic Empire at its height. This is a map that we have seen before, and as you can see here, you see that Islam and the Islamic Empire was basically everywhere in the Middle East, northern parts of Africa, all the way to India, and all the way to Spain and Portugal. So this empire had a massive impact on all of these areas. Now let's do a discussion question. Why do you think scholars call the era of the Abbasid rule of the Islamic Empire a golden age? Please take your time. If you need to pause this video to answer these questions, please do so. And the second question is, which Islamic achievement do you think is most important? So you have to think about the achievements of the Islamic world and put it together, explaining which achievements do you think are the most important and why? Let's move on. Now let's look at some key ideas of the Islamic Empire. And this is basically the Islamic world, Islam. And in this case, we're looking at empire building, culture, and religion. In terms of religion, Muhammad received revelations from Allah. The 5 pillars of Islam are Muslims' basic religious duties. Their source of authority, the Quran in this case, and the Sunnah guide daily life. And also Islam divides into several branches, including the Sunni and the Shia. And let's look at the differences between Sunni and Shia Muslims. The Sunni believes that the first 4 caliphs were rightfully guided. They also believe that Muslim rulers should follow the Sunnah or Muhammad's example. The Shia believe that Ali, the Prophet's son-in-law, should have succeeded Muhammad. They also believe that all Muslim rulers should be descended from Muhammad, do not recognize the authority of the Sunnah. So these are their basic beliefs and obviously the areas of disagreement between the Sunni and Shia. Now, in terms of empire building, 4 major Muslims caliphates built empires on parts of 3 continents. You have here basically from 661 to 750 the Umayyad Caliphate, and then you have from 750 all the way to 1258 the Abbasid Caliphate. So this is basically the Islamic world. This is basically their empire building component, and they were very successful. And they also contributed a lot to the areas that they were able to conquer. They contributed with sciences, architecture, and many other things. And in terms of culture here, Muslim scholars preserved, blend, and expand knowledge, especially in mathematics, astronomy, architecture, and medical science. So this is important because all of these three components that you saw right now, they were introduced to areas that they conquered. Here we have mathematics. You're more than welcome to pause this video and try to find a solution here, but the Islamic world contributed to our modern world in this manner by introducing many concepts of mathematics, also calligraphy. You're more than welcome to pause this video so that you can read a little bit about calligraphy. Also, architecture. As a matter of fact, even in our modern time, in Spain, there is a great legacy of architecture that was left by Muslims, and they beautify many aspects of how Spain is today. Now let's look at trade in the Islamic Empire. By the way, this is an activity, but we're just going to present it as a non-activity, basically, so that you can see many parts that became important because they were either conquered by the Islamic Empire or they influenced the Islamic Empire. And this is basically trade in the Islamic Empire activity. But as you can see here, you have different parts of the world. You have Northern Africa, you have Iberia, you have Arabia, Middle East, you had Persia, you had parts of India. And the Islamic world had a massive influence over all of these areas. And obviously this meant cultural diffusion, the transferring of ideas from one place to another place to another place, and obviously also the transferring of goods. Now, let's look at the products that spread throughout the Muslim world along the Silk Road. Very important. You need to know that the Silk Road was instrumental, fundamental when it came to trade in the exchange of the different ideas. And in this case, let's look at some of the products that moved along the Silk Road that came from China all the way to like India, all the way to the Middle East, and obviously other parts of Europe. And in this case, some of those products included Chinese silk, Persian carpets, Chinese paper, spices, ivory, gold, jade, horses, tea, perfumes, and even slaves were moved by using the Silk Road. Now let's look at the Indian Ocean trade, and we are going to look at some of the products that moved via the Indian Ocean. As you can see here on the map, all of those arrows that you see, all of those lines, blue lines that you see, those were trading routes. As you can see, the entire world was connected, the Asian part of the world to India, to the Middle East, and then it goes all the way to African nations. So there was this mass movement of goods. Once again, we come to the conclusion that via trade, ideas were transferred, products were transferred, cultural components were transferred from one part of the world to another part of the world. But let's look at some of the products that moved along this Indian Ocean trade route. Those included silk, spices, ivory, incense, herbs, opium, gold, and iron. So you see there's a full market of different products moving everywhere. So you have to be aware of this. Why? Because you may be asked on your AP World History exam about the impact of trade routes, the impact of all of the goods that were moving from different parts of the world. And obviously this all has to do with cultural diffusion. Now let's look at the Trans-Saharan Trade route. And we are going to identify a couple of things that moved in this part of the world. And those included gold, salt, camels, horses, and also slaves. So as you can see from the map in front of you, you have a movement of goods all the way from Cairo, Egypt, and the trade route expanded through the Sahara all the way to the western parts of Africa. Please keep this in mind. And with all of this trade, you had the movement of ideas, the movement of religion, the movement of products. This impacted and also connected this world. Now, what role did trade play in the Islamic Empire? Here we have a map of Africa, Europe, Middle East, India, even extending all the way to Russia and China. And these are the different trade routes that impacted this world around this time period. You see the Indian Ocean trading routes, you see the Mediterranean Sea and the trading routes, you see there the Silk Road, which is highlighted or with red lines that crisscross China, India, Middle East, and even Europe. You also have the Trans-Arabian trading route, which is the green lines that go in the Arabian Peninsula. And you also had the Trans-Saharan trading routes, which are part of the Sahara Desert and countries around northern Africa. So this is how the Islamic Empire was actually able to expand to different parts of the world. Now, trade played an important role in the Islamic Empire. The Muslim world was connected to a series of important trade networks in Africa, Asia, and the Indian Ocean. Trade routes increased cultural diffusion, like we have been mentioning before. In addition to spreading Islam, Muslims borrowed and spread Indian, Greco-Roman, Persian, and Chinese achievements. So everything became interconnected. We have now come to the end of this presentation. Do not forget to subscribe. Do not forget to like this video, and also do not forget to share this video so that we can help out more students have access to these presentations and be ready to pass their AP World History exam. I will see you in the next presentation.